Kong has his hands full. Here's your look at the new NECA toys, King Kong the Ultimate Figure with Pteranodon and Pit Monster. This new version of King Kong stands 8 inches tall with super detailed hair and battle wounds across the body and brand new head sculpts. The massive figure has over 30 points of articulation, includes 2 brand new interchangeable heads, 1 with jaw articulation, 3 pairs of interchangeable hands, a pit monster, Pteranodon, and tree trunk accessory. More NECA King Kong figures? Yes, please. Before we get a closer look at Ultimate Kong to come include with the Pteranodon and Pit Monster, obviously the first thing we're going to want to do is, figure out how tall the figure's going to stand, right? That's what we do here. While I'm doing this, I'd like to thank as well the folks over at NECA Toys that provide the sample Ultimate Kong that we're having a look at in this review. Taking the tape measure right to the very top of his furry... Is that a 5 head? I probably shouldn't have said that so loud. He's going to pummel me. The figure, though, stands 8.1 inches in height. Switching that over to centimeters, Ultimate King Kong specifically stands 20.7 centimeters tall. Checking out the accessories to come include with this new released Kong. I feel like I would be failing as a reviewer to leave these ones last. He comes with 2 unique monsters that have only come with this release, and we haven't seen them before. The first of the 2 is a pit monster, which, looking at it, it looks like your regular run-of-the-mill reptile, although the back of the lizard's legs are missing. It says you sort of got like half snake, half lizard. It does have some really nice detailing done to it for such a small piece, really, when you look at it. The coloring, for the most part, is really like this dark brown, with a little bit of a lighter shade of it just on the underbelly right here. I was surprised, actually, pleasantly surprised, to see that the pit monster did possess some posability. Doesn't have it in its legs necessarily, but it most definitely has it in its head. You can rotate that back and forth, and it has all the things that a ball joint would give you, so you can move the head up and down, and you can also rock it back and forth as well. But you can also say, inside, no, not you. The pit monster does open its mouth as well. You can see some really rather gnarly looking teeth on the top and the bottom, with a darker pink colored tongue painted on the inside. Again, the fact that they would have done this, I would have just been content if they included the pit monster as is, without any articulation or any posability to speak of. But the fact that they actually did put that in its head, with an actual functioning jaw that could open and close, is really a nice touch. Up next is a Pteranodon. I'm not sure why, looking at his face, it reminds me of the Flintstones. Like I could imagine Fred Flintstone coming home from a long days of work and complaining about it, and then Pteranodon doing some menial job around the house says, "You got it rough." I don't know why I'm looking at that and thinking it, but at least it can pull off dialogue, though I can't imagine it actually speaks English. The mouth does open and close, and goes, "Ah!" That was my own sound effect. It does have actually a ball joint, similar to the pit monster, so you can rotate the head all the way around. I really like the purple that they've incorporated to the beak. The same purple can also be found along the crest of its head as well, with a little bit of it also trailing its way down its neck too. Now the Pteranodon, this is the only posability it possesses. So the wings, for example, when you flip them around, not only are you treated to some really nice rooted coloring of brown, it's almost kind of like a rusted red. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't have any posability here. So this is all basically just molded plastic. The only thing I could really say as a critique to the Pteranodon, while it looks great, and it does have at least an open mouth, you got it rough. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any place to really clip this onto. I thought, if anything, maybe the log weapon that he uses, you could probably just clip it onto that, and I guess if you want to, you somewhat can balance it onto the stick, but it really doesn't. That's not the purpose it serves. I really wish that they could have given you like a display stand or something that could have actually had... I guess I probably could just take myself like a NECA flight stand or like a wiring or something and have it suspended that way. I'm not complaining at all about it, because I think the Pteranodon turned out rather nicely here. I suppose while we're on the topic of sticks, were we on the topic of sticks? Yes, we were. He does come included with a larger, it's not even really a stick. I mean, this would be a limb of a tree. He can wield in his hand a darker gray plastic, then brushed ever so gently with a darker coloring of it. It does really look nice. It has a real well, as real as it could be, certainly made out of plastic, but it certainly does have some nice texturing done to it. You can see all the way around as I spin it. It's like a stick rotisserie. Now this does fit into his hand, and don't worry, you don't actually have to remove any of the hands to pull off such feats. You just simply take the branch and fit it into his hand like that, and King Kong is good for clubbing. While he is planning on what he's going to be doing with it, let's move on to the other accessories that come included with the figure. He comes with a couple of swappable hands. Say a couple, he actually comes with 6 pairs of interchangeable hands. Good mauling-size monkey hands here. They're a shinier plastic on the inside. A little too shiny, if you ask me. But on the outside, boy, does that brown look really, really nice. Of course, I'm guessing they probably just, again, dry brushed the brown onto the surface of the plastic, but it's a nice contrast between that and the shinier plastic of his fingers and the interior of his palms. To swap out any one of the hands, I guess hold on a second. He does also come technically with some closed fists as well, for monkey punching action. Why are we so aggressive in this review? Again, like really shiny black plastic. I don't have an actual primate in front of me. I know I work with some that I feel are close enough to being like monkeys. But I think like the plastic, again, is a little on the shinier side, but I know that generally when it comes to big ape hands, they tend to have a little more of a sheen to them. And these are just really super shiny, that's all. But to go ahead and change the hands out, you don't mind if I just pick you up for a second? Not that you had really a choice. You can go ahead and just remove it. Actually, you know what? Let's take the stick out of his one hand. Put that to the side. Just grab his forearm. Get a good grip of it, of course. And just wiggle this off like that. You'll feel a good satisfying snap when you pop that back into place. And there you go. You have King Kong with big giant mauling. I guess he could technically maul Godzilla. Not this time around. He's going to be mauling little Pteranodons and pit monsters. But at least he does have like big giant mauling hands that he can pull that off with. The King of the Apes comes included with 2 swappable head sculpts. We'll start first with this one, as this is the one that comes included with the figure when you first free him from his cardboard prison. First, you'll probably see a use of dark charcoal gray for his face in the area of his chest. I thought perhaps it may have been too dark and blend into the brown, but when you see it physically in hand, the gray complements rather nicely the brown for his fur, and to help also aid the brown, they've stranded a few of those hairs in a lighter color, just to help break it up and add a little bit more contrast. Personally, I like the head sculpt, this one. Not really sure whether I'd like this one or the other one, which I'll show you guys in a second. In both cases, war wounds are present on Kong. There's several gashes, as you can see, on the side of his face, the areas of his cheek, and the areas around his eyebrows. He has definitely been in several different battles. The coloring of the red, though, while you see a lot more of it in his chest, it seems more of a darker color around the areas of his face. That's a really good head sculpt, though. Now, where this one also has a benefit going for it versus the one that we will be swapping shop for in a second, this one does also have an open mouth. You can open and close that on a hinge joint. This also gives an opportunity on NECA's part to add a clear coat, almost a gloss coat there to the teeth, the gums, and the tongue to make it look wet when you have the mouth open like this. Having the mouth also open gives an opportunity to bring some much needed color, because even though I do like the gray and I like the brown, there's a lot of dark coloring going on here, and having just that little bit of red tongue there does break that up rather nicely. I suppose from there, what we could do is bring in the alternate head sculpt. Well, it may even see why I'm so torn as to which one I like more. Now, whereas the gashes on the default Kong head are more of that darker color, there's no denying there's blood all over this particular Kong's face. He has these gashes on the sides of his face, and there's a stream of red trickling down from that. See it on this side here as well. To change out the head sculpts, all you do is going to grab the torso and just wiggle this right off. You know, one thing I will say, it was super easy to remove the joints. I wondered if perhaps they would have gone with a larger ball peg, but actually when you see it, it's a very small ball peg. So popping the head sculpt back in place does involve just a little bit of additional force. Twist that back into place, and you've got this head sculpt as the alternative. Again, we can bring in the other one so you guys can see the difference between the two. This one is only moderately PO'd. This one is quite seriously PO'd. But that seriously PO'd Kong head sculpt, come on. He is angry at something, and I'm hoping it's not directed towards me. We'll just move the figure over again, and one last time bring in the alternate head sculpt, and I would just finish yanking it off the ball peg. Even though this one does have the open and closed mouth, and it looks like he's roaring, I don't think it conveys to me a really super angry King Kong. If anything, it looks more like a surprised King Kong, like he's just walked in on a birthday party that his friends have held for him. You know, for the record, I probably would throw a birthday party for this head sculpt right here. This head sculpt, probably not so much. He's really angry. Too angry for a birthday party, if you ask me. Maybe that's why he's angry. You can see with the eyebrows, they have definitely made them a lot more angled down. And especially when you see the head sculpt from the side, it casts a shadow across the eyeballs and really gives him some level of depth, specifically around this area here. Unfortunately, though, when you see it from the front, I can't help but notice, it's a little strange, maybe my own eyes are playing tricks on me, but the sockets that are around his dark eyeballs, see them right here? Lighter color gray on both sides. Well, under certain lit conditions, so happens to be the studio lights that I'm using right now, those eyeballs that were now starting black now appear to be more pupils, and the areas around the eyeballs now almost look like his eyeballs themselves. I can't help but think that when looking at him like this, he looks like he's got cartoon eyeballs. I know it's probably just my own peepers playing tricks on me. This one doesn't benefit from having an open and closed mouth, but it does still make up for it by having some really nice sculpted in teeth. Really dark discolored gums there as well. I will say, like, the blood that they've used to scar the sides of his face seem a little bit lighter of a color than his torso. Now, you could chalk it up to the time frame of when those wounds happened. These are maybe older than these ones right here, by the fact that they are, yes, again, trickling down those streams of crimson. Probably are something that he just recently got clawed across his face. Maybe that is why he's so angry. Looking at, though, the detailing on the rest of the figure's body, it's using the same Kong figure body that we have gotten with other instances before, though again, what's changing here is the head sculpt and the new accessories. The coloring is quite good, even though, again, you've got really dark browns and a lot of dark grays working here. But even again, looking at those browns, even the arms specifically, I see 2, maybe even 3 shades of brown working here. Darker brown around the areas of his forearm, and lighter browns as you get further up his shoulders. In fact, actually, when you're looking at the back of his torso, you see a lot of nice airbrushing of several different browns. Actually, even just a little bit of black also airbrushed down below there as well. Kong has a very noticeably flat behind. I don't know why I'm drawing everyone's attention to King Kong's flat behind. But his behind is a little on the flat side. And actually, the lower area of the figure is all softer plastic. It sort of has given him a concealed way of hiding in those joints. But some people have coined that the diaper, the figure diaper, which I guess in some ways you probably could consider that a diaper, but I like at least it hides the joints. So we really don't see that the figure has articulation, short of the fact he's got the little lines right here, where clearly the legs aren't the same as the rest of his body. As we get a little bit further down on the figure, similar actually to his hands are shinier looking padded feet. He does have peg holes on the undersides of said feet, but the figure actually doesn't have too much of a difficulty standing, depending on how much of a range you have his arms moving forward. Like if you have his arms brought out like this, then it does throw his balancing off a little bit. But at least because he does have articulation in the ankles where you can sway those back and forth, you sort of then as a result of it can stabilize the figure a little bit better, especially depending on how you want to display the figure on your shelf. Speaking of the figure's articulation, were we speaking of the figure's articulation? Yes. Speaking of the figure's articulation, King Kong does have his head on the ball peg. Because of that, you get a wide range when it comes to moving the figure's head all the way around. Though I probably wouldn't recommend doing that. Giant or not, that's going to cause some serious arthritis. Anyways, the head rotates all the way around. It hinges down, it hinges up, and you can also sway his head back and forth. Like I said, a good range working there behind the scenes. Now, for his arms, just due to the sculpting nature of his shoulders, so much of the sculpting goes right up to the point where that's going to get pegged into the torso. What results in that is when it comes to moving Kong's arms out, you can get them at roughly a 45-degree angle. Any bit past that point, I feel like I'm fighting against it. And again, you've got Sculpt fighting against Sculpt. You're really only going to be able to get about a 45-degree angle from this figure. Anyways, though, the arms do still rotate all the way around. In fact, there's the hinge joint right there. You can see on the inside. does have 2 bends in the elbow, 1 and 2. So he can almost pat himself on the back if he wants to. He does have a forearm swivel. So essentially it swivels where it's pegged into the elbow. And really, I guess you could say the same thing applies for up here as well. Kong's hands do also rotate all the way around. Because there is also a hinge joint working there too, you can also hinge the hands inward also. Then we look at the figure's torso. The upper torso is on a ball joint. He loses it then when you get further down. Again, this is all encased inside softer plastic. The legs hinge out. I can't help but notice, perhaps maybe you can have an ear up to the monitor. There is like a ratcheted joint working there as well. I really like when figures have ratcheted articulation. Legs move forward, legs move back. Oh, there's even more so. You can hear it when I'm moving the legs back and forth. It does have a double hinge on the knee. And similar to the Kongs we looked at before, when it comes to his feet, he's got a nice ankle pivot. Really good, again, for stabilizing a figure of this size and mass. And you can also move the feet back and forth this way as well. Just a great looking Kong. You know, I say this almost far too frequently. When it comes to these pieces like this, especially when you have alternate head sculpts, I'm really inclined to actually want to pick up a second one of these Kongs. Because I like this head sculpt, the more surprised, hey, it's my birthday? You guys didn't have to celebrate my birthday. This head sculpt, or again, the more ticked off Kong. The head sculpts are good. Both of them are so equally good that, again, I would want to probably pick up another one of these. Because he does also have, technically, 3 different accessories. The 2 different monsters and the big, giant, swinging bat stick. Then yeah, there's a lot of strong candidates for where you can display this figure when you eventually pick this one up for yourself. A pretty cool new Kong from the folks over at NECA Toys. I believe this now marks the 3rd primate that the company has put out, that initial King Kong, and then a follow-up psychedelic poster illustrated variant. Of course, both of which we've already had a look at in previous reviews. You won't, though, find any psychedelic oranges and yellows on this particular King Kong. Oh no, no way. Going back to more the traditional route of using the browns and the grays. And even just the browns alone, drawing everyone's attention hopefully to the back of his torso and his rather flat behind. I don't know why I have drawn everyone's attention to his flat behind, but looking at the paint that they just applied to the fur alone, there's a lot of little subtle nuances there. In fact, actually, the color scheme of King Kong's body reminds me a little bit like a raccoon. You've got them lighter browns, some darker, more chestnut-colored browns, and some nice airbrushing stripes of black. All, again, add just to the level of detail to this figure. Not to mention, though, he does have 2 swappable heads, with more surprised birthday party open mouth feature on the one, and then this one, of course, that we're wrapping up the review with, which again, I don't know, I said it kind of looked like he had cartoon eyes. I sort of feel bad for saying that, but I guess it's just the way that the lighting was hitting it, and his smaller eyeballs ended up just kind of looking like pupils. To me, it kind of looked a little bit like cartoon eyes. See, right there. Now everybody's going to be looking at that. He comes with a big giant tree. I guess it's a limb. I mean, judging by the size, we have to kind of put that in proper perspective. Maybe that's a tree. It has to be a full-size tree, and he's just broken the limbs off of it. That's the only practical thing I could describe this as being. It's a full-size tree, everybody, just minus the leaves and the limbs. But he's using it for swinging batting purposes, and he's going to be swinging it against a couple of the creatures that come included, packed also with this figure, that pit monster and the Pteranodon. Nice touches, actually, in both of those cases, that the figures, those smaller little accessories, those standalone monsters that came with the figure as an add-on, also have their own posability in both their heads and their mouths. That's not bad at all. The pit monster does a better job of being able to stand on his own, simply just because of the size of the Pteranodon's talons. Is that what you call them? Talons? Because they are so small and the wingspan is so wide, it really just doesn't have the means to stand on its own. I guess if you could find the way, there probably could have put like a peg system or something onto the tree, so you could have actually suspended or attached the Pteranodon to that. Or maybe they could have included, I don't know, like a rock, something that you could have actually perched it on top of. I think ultimately I'm just going to find myself like a display stand, that flight stand, maybe something that came included with Mothra. I could maybe try that. Or I can use some fishing line, because I would like to display the Pteranodon, especially with this King Kong, because after all, if they're going to take the time to include pretty cool accessories like this, I'm going to take the time and want to properly display it with the figure. A big thank you to the folks over at NECA Toys that provided the sample of King Kong that came included with the Pteranodon and the pit monster, and a big giant swinging tree. It's got to be a tree. I mean, again, look at the size of this guy. A big thank you again, though, to the folks over at NECA Toys that provide the sample. What do you guys think of King Kong? Let me know down below in the comments section. And certainly while you're also there, if you're, of course you're not doing anything anyways, make sure if you are new to this channel that you're hitting the subscribe button down below, that you're turning on the bell notification, and that, yes, you're coming back to this channel with primate peepers peeled, because we may not be looking at any other King Kongs for the time being, but there's definitely going to be a lot more NECA reviews lined up and coming your way. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.